Got some new gear I want to review on the channel today. These are the Ramrods V4 stabilizers. I've got the long rod and the side rods here. I'm going to unbox them and show you what the actual stabilizers are, discuss a little bit about the actual features of them, and then I'm going to go outside and shoot them on my bow and let you know what I think about them. So full disclosure here, Ramrods did send me these Ultra V4s for free for me to test. And like I said, any other time on this channel in the past, anytime I receive product for free, I will let you know. However, it's really important to note that I will only be honest with you, the viewers who are viewing this channel. It is a prerequisite that I let the actual manufacturer know, hey, by the way, I'm happy to receive your product for free to actually review, but just know that I'm going to be honest no matter what. However, if there's any problems that I do find with the actual product itself, first what I'll do is reach out to the manufacturer, give them first right of refusal to basically say, hey, either they messed up, there's a product defect, or maybe I messed up with the installation process or something, and then I'll let you know either way what the actual outcome was. That's what I've done on this channel, and that's what I'll continue to do. Also, if you're interested in any of the products today, especially these Ramrods, but any other products really that I'll be using in this video, I will have affiliate links down in the description below. That really helps this channel out if you click those links before you shop. I don't have any discounts for you yet, unfortunately, but it does help this channel out. So let's open up the boxes. As usual, the boxes are quite nice. You know, they have some information on them. I've got the side rods as well as a long rod. I'm running a 30-inch long rod, and I'm running their 15-inch side rods. Both the long rod and the side rod, so all three stabilizers, have their tungsten dampening cores in them. That means that there's 3 ounces of tungsten inside a capsule at the end where you would put weights on the stabilizer itself, and it helps dampen a lot of the vibration. I've done videos in the past comparing the actual tungsten versus not tungsten in stabilizers, as well as the actual tungsten weights themselves, and I will have links in the description below and a card at the top up there to that video, so you can check that out, as well as there will be links in the description below for other Ramrod videos that I've done in regards to shooting their entire lineup. I shot all of their stabilizers already and talk about what I think about them and feature them and show you what's going on. So you can check those out too. But new for this year is this Ultra V4. I have the V3 over here. The V3 is just a parallel straight stabilizer that does not taper, and this V4 tapers a considerable amount. It looks like both of them are roughly the same diameter against the bow. Actually, no. The Ultra V3s are a 1/2-inch OD all the way from the bow side to the weight side, and it doesn't taper. The Ultra V4 is 560 thousandths of an inch, so it's 60 thousandths of an inch bigger against the end that goes against the bow itself, and it's 440 thousandths of an inch down at the long end where you mount the weights. So it's much, much narrower at the actual end where you would mount the weights themselves. So you can check here on this side where my pinky is, that is the V4, and on the side where my thumb is, that is the V3. So it's a considerable visual difference. The actual finish on the stabilizer is different too. The V4 is using their new one that has, from what I understand, a bit of glass in the actual paint itself, which makes it look matte. It definitely changes the look of it. It's not gloss, and from what I understand, based on what they told me, they're using this finish because they find it's much more durable, so when the V5 comes out or something else and you want to sell these, the resale value is much higher because they still look nice. This year, they have gone now for the V4s to the edge end caps that are faceted, just like the edge extension and the quick disconnect and all that stuff. So it looks super sharp, and according to the box and everything else that I've read, 7075 series end caps, as far as the aluminum is concerned, they have through holes, so you can actually put an Allen wrench in them and tighten them or loosen them in case they get stuck, which is really nice to see. So the actual long rod looks really sharp. I like their graphics. It's definitely one of the nice things, one of the nicer things that Ramrods does is their graphics are sharp. And their side rods, it's so funny. because there's a very short stabilizer. You know, it's only 12 inches or 15 inches long rather, but it's really heavy because they have 3 ounces of tungsten in these side rods. And I'm really glad to see that the side rods also have the tungsten in them, because I really liked it when I was shooting it in the stabilizer, and I like that it keeps the tungsten dampening inside, out of the wind, and just overall lowers the cross section, the side profile of the actual stabilizer when it's windy out. So if you check out the actual stabilizers themselves, they look really sharp. They are just really nice looking, actually. They're really nice looking for what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I set up my stabilizers to test and play around with different setups. I use a quick disconnect, the actual piece that is the quick disconnect, that little round piece that goes in there and slips. And I screwed the 2 stabilizers end to end, and then I balance it on my finger and get the actual balance point the same between the 2 setups, so that way they actually somewhat aim and feel the same on the bow without needing to make huge adjustments. It's not perfect, but it gets you really close and allows you to really kind of test and set up and see how the actual stabilizer is feeling without spending a ton of time to set it up to balance and aim perfectly for you. So because the Vector long rod also had the tungsten dampening inside the stabilizer itself, I'm just going to grab the weight off that long rod and throw it on this Ultra V4, because it should balance the same, because it is the same rough mass weight. It's not going to be a ton different, and for the sake of testing and playing with things, it's not going to be too critical. Balance point. So what you want to do is essentially screw them end to end like so. So you'll have to back the actual quick disconnect piece on the original stabilizer out a little bit, and then screw the other stabilizer into it like so. And what you want to do is visually look to see, is the actual quick disconnect bit there evenly spaced between the 2 rods. And so right now, if I were to take the stabilizer, obviously there's no weights here, and you can imagine doing this with a long rod as well. The reason you'd want to do this is if you're changing different stabilizers and you want the bow to feel the same and aim the same, at least, you know, relatively speaking, pretty close, you need to balance the stabilizers rather, like this. And you'll see, well, obviously there's a bunch of weight on this one and there's none on this one. So when I go like this to balance and see which one's heavier, the one with the weights are much heavier. But if I take the weight package that is on the other Vector side rod that I was running, and they're both exactly the same mass weight, I'm not running a little bit more on one side or the other like I normally do, just because I don't have any 1/3 ounce weights from them to mess around with like I have used in the past for other stabilizer setups. And I know that there's 3 ounces of tungsten powder in the end of this rod, and because of that, I'm going to take at least 3 ounces if I can, but I think I only have some 2 ounce packs. Yeah, I have a 2 ounce pack and an extra threaded piece here on this weight package. Tighten it down, and now balance and see where we're at. Actually, the Vector rod here is still heavier, despite in theory there should be more weight here. So I may need to add 1 ounce on the end of this. And just to see, I'm going to take that threaded rod and put it back in here, just to see if that's enough weight. Definitely not enough weight yet. So I got to find my 1 ounce weight stacks, thread that onto the Ultra V4 side. And you can see that the Ultra V4 with 1 more ounce is still slightly heavier than the Vector. So I've got a shorter set screw in there. And now the Vector again is still on this side, my left side, and it is barely heavier. It's still a little bit too heavy, unfortunately. I wish I could get them the same, but without having aluminum weights that are 1/3 ounces, I just can't get exactly there. You know, for example, here's a much longer thread with no weight on it between the two, and the vector is still slightly heavy. So it's not perfect, but the very short set screw with this 1 ounce extra weight is really, really close. And so that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to run that. So it's a marginal amount heavier on the side rods than I typically run, or at least have run, with these vectors. So what I'm going to do now that I've got them roughly set up, is I'm going to put them on my bow, get all warmed up and ready, and get outside and start shooting. And then we'll discuss how they actually feel and how they aim. Okay, so I'm here outside at 70 meters. This is the Olympic distance, and I'm very comfortable shooting here, and I understand basically how my bow reacts, how it aims, and things like that. So it's a really great place for me to start with a new set of stabilizers, and that way I can hopefully give you a little bit better idea as to how they actually feel when I'm shooting them. And it is a little bit gusty today, so hopefully I'll get a few good gusts on me. It's a little tough with the trees around here to actually get any sort of constant wind, but maybe I'll get a good idea as to how the actual outside diameter of the stabilizers helps with that. Definitely has a very different sound to them, even compared to the vectors. I wouldn't say it's bad or good, it's just, it sounds different to me already. So despite the odd noise, or the different noise that I'm used to, the actual reaction or feel of the shot is really, really dead. There's very little residual vibration in the shot itself, and overall the bow dampens extremely quickly. It's definitely maybe a little louder initially, but I haven't checked my brace height in a considerable amount of time, so I should probably check that first before I really say that it's louder. But it absolutely deadens very, very quickly after the arrow's gone. Before the arrow's even at 70 meters, the thing is really, really dead, and I feel no vibration at all. Yeah, I mean, it's like the arrow's maybe at 30 meters and it's dead. I feel one whack where it delivers the arrow, and then maybe a whap, whap, and then done. And it's really, it delivers 2 hits and then it's dead. And I don't even feel like a harmonic frequency or feel any sort of humming type of vibration. It's just a hit, hit, done. And that could be, excuse me, and that could be maybe due to the tiller, all sorts of different things. So I'm definitely going to go and get my bow square, check my brace height, make sure everything else is still pretty good, and then come back out and shoot a couple more arrows. So the brace height and tiller were exactly where I like them, so that funny sound or difference in sound is just in the actual stabilizers themselves. I wouldn't say that it's worse, it's just a very different sound. I'll try my best to describe what's different about it, because the sound doesn't always translate very well to what you hear. It's just not, sometimes it's a bit, not distorted, it just really depends on where the microphone is, because the microphone's essentially a directional mic on top of the camera, and so as it moves around, it's gathering the noise from different areas from the bow itself, and so the shooter, it's a lot different, and so it's a little difficult for you to understand what I hear. But as far as like the way this setup aims, it is very good, very calm, very steady. Like I said, I just balanced the stabilizers themselves against other ones. Remember when I switched the side rods? So they're not perfect, but the overall aiming itself is quite good. I have nothing to complain about, and it's pretty much dead. Yeah, I got nothing to complain about there. It's got a little up and down bob, but that could be just my balance being off slightly because the V-bars weren't exactly the same weight themselves. Plus, the actual vectors, I did that same balancing thing against the AAE Avante X stabilizers that I've been shooting, so nothing's perfect or optimized for holding yet. So, I mean, it's definitely quite happy. The only thing, and this could be because they're a little on the stiffer side, I believe they're 10% stiffer than the V3s. I haven't really shot the V3s a whole lot out here at 70 meters, so I don't know exactly how they react, but a softer rod, especially the thinner ones, tend to like absorb the movement a little bit and feel like it's almost an auto-corrective aiming pattern. In this one, I'm not quite seeing that. Again, it could be just the actual setup of the stabilizers themselves. They're just very predictable. So if I'm doing my job when I'm shooting correctly, you know, the sight pattern is perfect. It's really basically dead, and my sight pin is just not leaving the 10 ring as long as I do my job. But the bow definitely makes different sounds upon the shot depending on how I shoot it. So when I make a little bit of a softer shot on that one, it goes high right like I expect, but the bow has more of a, I don't know, lack of better terms, more of a lame sound. It's not as crisp. It's just kind of like, I don't know. I can't describe it other than it's lamer. It's not so crisp. Here's some wind. And I would like to say that I like it in the wind here because what I normally feel with larger stabilizers when I'm aiming, if I'm aiming at you, is a lot of what I have to fight is this, where the stabilizer is wanting to turn. And with this much smaller cross section, it was the whole bow was like this because there's still a lot of mass and a lot of surface area in the riser and the sight and all that stuff itself. And so what I'm feeling is the whole bow drifting like this or being pushed like this as opposed to being pushed like this in the wind so much. So not having to deal with resisting the torque allows me to do my job to really execute much more dynamically, so I don't have to resist the bow twisting. I can just keep my bow arm nice and strong and drive that arrow forward. See if we can get this other gust to come here and do that again. Yeah, same thing. The whole bow is drifting from side to side and it's not being torqued because of the stabilizer. So that's a huge benefit and something I really, really like. Something I'm not even sure I noticed before with other stabilizers, but between the combination of the thinner rod itself with having less cross-sectional profile of less weights on the end because of the internal weight that's in the rod itself, and using more efficient actual weights made out of powdered tungsten, so it does remove the actual vibration because this is the 4-ounce powdered tungsten dampening weight on the ends here as well, and it's just a much smaller package. You know, I'm running a lot of weight. It doesn't look like it, but for me it's a decent amount of weight. There's 3 in the rod, 4 in this dampened, that's 7, and 8 on the end. I did reduce my overall mass weight a little bit lately, so I went from 11-ish or so down to 8 on the front, and now I'm at 3, 7, 8 as well on each V-bar. So I'm running a very, you know, it's not light, but it's definitely not super heavy. It's still got a decent amount of mass weight to it, and it feels overall quite good. Now, like I said, the sound changes from shot to shot. I really like that personally because that's giving me a bit of feedback to tell me, hey, you made a shot that wasn't the same as the other shots, right? And so why that's a good thing is, say I'm shooting arrows and I get one that goes out high right 8 like that one, and I'm not sure why it went there, but the bow makes a different sound and it says, hey, you did definitely shoot that shot different. The bow gives me that feedback, and then I can potentially reanalyze and decide, okay, what was it? Did I make the mistake? And obviously if the bow's telling me I made a mistake, then it's probably my fault, or maybe my brace height's off like I suggested. And so there's these cues that give you the opportunity to hopefully catch things when you normally wouldn't. If your bow is completely dead upon release, you don't get that feedback, and so you can't really do another deep dive analysis if you're not entirely sure. So what I'm going to do next, I'm actually going to make this next video, which will come out a couple days after this one. So if you haven't yet, please do subscribe down below and hit that notification bell so you get notified when I upload it. But what I'm going to do is I am going to put the Mantis, the thing that you can actually measure the stability score of your bow and your aiming pattern. I'm going to mount it on the bow, and then I'm going to do a comparison of just a long rod and a full-blown Olympic setup with V-bars. I've already done a video in the past with no stabilizers versus stabilizers including V-bars, and it made a huge difference in my actual grouping down range. And so this next video, I'm going to do it just the long rod versus a full-blown setup including V-bars and see how much of a difference that makes. And because I have the Mantis back again in my possession, I also will take the stabilizers off and get baseline stability scores for full-blown setup, no stabilizer, and stabilizer, and that way you can kind of have a little bit more data. Again, that video is going to be coming up next. So again, huge thanks to Ramrods for sending me these stabilizers. They look really good. The finish on them is beautiful. The actual colors, the graphics, I really, really like. I cannot complain at all with the fit and finish. Everything is really, really high quality from them as far as what I can see to the eye. I like the internal tungsten dampening now that's in the V-bars. I don't know if they came that way before, but they never sent them to me in the past with them in it, so I'm glad to see it in the side rods. Personally, I think it's worth the extra money to get that weight in the stabilizer, because if you're going to run 3 ounces as it is, you can just put a nice little cap on the end of the rod and shoot the rod bare, and that's perfect for getting the maximum benefit of these skinny rods out here in the wind. I definitely felt like there was a difference in the way it aimed. Again, the whole bow is drifting from side to side like this. It wasn't torquing in the wind like, say, if the wind was blowing this way, it wasn't pushing the rod that way and I had to fight the bow. It was like I just had to fight the bow independent of the rod itself. So that to me is a good benefit. Although didn't get a bunch of shots out here in the wind because again, it's so protected by the trees and it's kind of difficult to get that to be happening in here. So like I said in the beginning of the video, if you're interested in picking up these Ramrod Ultra V4s, I will have links in the description below. I'll also put a card at the top up there in case you're interested in checking them out. And like I said, everything else that I've used in this video, I'll have links in the description below. And I can't thank those enough that click those affiliate links. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and I appreciate it. Hey, if you like this video, consider sharing it. Genuinely, that helps this channel grow. I don't operate any other social media, and I rely on you to help spread the word. I haven't been happier since I cut it out of my life, and yeah, I still would like to have this channel grow as much as possible. Also, if you wouldn't mind, please do subscribe, hit that notification bell down below. Also, check all the links in the description below on many different ways you can help support this channel. I produce all this content for archers around the world to enjoy for free. I can't thank my supporters enough. Without you, I wouldn't be able to produce this much content, at least not to this level. So thanks.